Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, hang on, Ben. Stand by. Gonna hang up on you, Ben, okay? Everyone at YouTube, stand by. We'll be with you in just a moment. We have had the dreaded Skype glitch. Yes, indeed. I remember a time when all of this would have put me all wrong, but thankfully, we've got it handled now, folks. So let me go back to TFR first. Here we go. Okay, stand by, folks. As you can hear, we might have a bit of a problem there. Stand by. Okay, I'm going to phone Ben back. Ben, how you doing, brother?
Hello, Kev. How
I'm doing very well. Can you shove your camera on for me? There we go. You're back with me. That's good. We've got Ben, ladies and gentlemen. Now all we need to do, there we go. We are live on tfrlive.com. We got there in the end, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me today here on the Kev Baker Show at, like I say, tfrlive.com. Now, I've had a really, really busy day today, but in the back of my mind, I've been looking forward to tonight's show. Yes, indeed. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by my good friend and regular guest on the Kev Baker Show, Ben Emlyn-Jones. Now, it's a really good time for Ben to be coming back because we are in the midst of one of these royal scandals. Yes, indeed. Randy Andy has been at it again, and I can't think of anyone better to bring onto the show to speak to this matter and others that connect it and a whole lot more. And that's why tonight I've called the show The Prince, The Patsy, and of course, The Paranormal. So for people out there who don't know who Ben is the man behind Hypanwo, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. Now, to give you a taste of what Hypanwo is all about, he gets into government cover-ups, ghosts, UFOs, even the world of hospital porters. We've got paranormal investigation, cryptozoology, hidden knowledge, forbidden history, archaeology, chemtrails, and of course, like I said, so much more, which makes him the perfect fit for the Kev Baker Show. He's also an author of a trilogy which tackles the topic of UFO disclosure. He's one of the busiest people I know on the alternative circuit, be it speaking on shows, be it doing his own show. be it going to actual physical conferences, not just in the UK, but also speaking over in Europe as well. Yes, indeed, he has grown lots since he first joined us here on the show. And I always love to hang out with Ben. Because we're into such the same topics, but not only that, I know everybody out there, they get a real buzz when this character comes on the show. So Ben, there you are, my man. Welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Oh, thanks, Kev. It's great to be back on the show again. Like yourself, I've been looking forward to this. It's always good for us to get together every so often and go through all the strange things that have been happening, and there's always plenty of those.
It's an exciting time. It is, because you know how I'm such a royalist, such a fan of that family down in Buckingham. And of course, I say we're now in the midst of a royal crisis and a scandal. However, if the British public were better educated and knew more about the history of this not-so-English family, I think the scandal would be always there. However, not enough people know about the fact that, you know, they actually come from the family of Saxe Gotha Coburg. And they took on the name the House of Windsor because it sounded a little less German and a little more British. And of course, then you can go and look at the Queen throwing up the bad guys from World War II salute. Careful not to trigger any algorithms here today. Yeah, really creepy family at the best of times. And now, Ben, we have Prince Andrew. Talk to us about that interview.
Yes, indeed. I mean, this is a new story that's come out. I'm sure Christopher Everard will have a lot to say about this as well on his show. It's just right up his street too. As you said, and indeed as Christopher has said as well, the whole history of the royal family, that is the House of Windsor, named after Windsor Castle. As you said, they have a German name originally. They're part of the Habsburg Illuminati bloodline, and their whole history has been one of corruption, depravity, murder, and all other kinds of evil things, going right all the way back to their distant ancestors. And I don't know why people suddenly believe that this current generation of royals are going to be any different, because if they were different, they'd be the first ones ever who didn't commit acts of atrocities like that. There's been all kinds of scandals over the years. This may well turn out to be one of the worst ones. And I think it's a step in the right direction, because it's a kind of thing a few years ago you couldn't have imagined possibly happening. But Prince Andrew, our Randy Andy. Now, when the phrase Randy Andy first appeared in this TV show called Spitting Image in the 1980s. This is before he got married the first time. And
I mean, Ben, let's lay it on the line here. I mean, it's not any secret in the UK that Prince Andrew, he's lived the prince's life. He's had TV stars, he's had celebrities, and at the same time, I am very quick, and I want to emphasise that all of the love interests that I've known associated with Prince Andrew have all been of age, okay?
Yeah, he's had a reputation of a playboy.
Yeah.
In the early days before he met Sarah and his first wife, but as you said, he's just what always a prince, never a king kind of characters tend to do in the royals' families of all bloodlines. But now, what's happened now is we're seeing another side of him, and the fact that it's being talked publicly, I think, is enormously encouraging. It's not there yet. I mean, as you said, will the British public actually respond to this the way they should do, which is with outrage and with an outpouring of revolutionary anger, basically. But Prince Philip has decided to go public over some accusations that have been made about him. And this all ties in with the Jeffrey Epstein affair, the man who did not commit suicide a couple of months ago, as we talked about on previous shows. His name has cropped up along with several others about connections to various people associated with this before Epstein conveniently lost his life. And it centers around his relationship with Epstein, and especially a woman who was a very young woman at the time. She was a teenager at the time, called Virginia Jeffrey, also known as Virginia Roberts. Now, this is one of the girls, Epstein's girls, one of several people who've accused Epstein of trafficking her when she was a teenage girl. Now, you must remember Epstein has a previous conviction for this very offence in 2008, when he got 13 months in an open prison which is really quite remarkable. But
And I mean, Ben, every day that open prison, he was getting picked up by his chauffeur, driven to his big townhouse, living the life, and then going and sleeping in the prison. What a deal, eh? Not only did he get that deal for him, he managed to basically get immunity for anyone else that was caught up in the investigation.
It's incredible the plea bargaining he did. I mean, if it had been you or me in that situation, I'm sure they'd have thrown away the key.
And rightly so. So.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's crimes against humanity that he committed. So I'm inclined to this Virginia Roberts Jeffrey. What she said. I mean, there's other reasons to believe her. We'll come on to maybe we can get onto the ABC thing as well later. But,
oh yeah.
There's many reasons to believe her. She has nominated Prince Andrew as one of the men she was trafficked to. Now, Prince Andrew has always denied this, but a photograph emerged, supposedly taken in the flat of a lady called Ghislaine Maxwell, who is the girlfriend, or was the girlfriend, of Jeffrey Epstein. And it shows Prince Andrew. This happened in distinctly in, I think it was April 2001. And he has his arm around her, and she's clearly a young girl. I mean, she's supposedly 17 there, which in Britain puts her just over the age of consent. That's the photo, yeah. And you see a young, slim, attractive woman with Randy Andy, sort of like smiling at the camera. Andrew's response to this. Now, what Andrew did, Andrew decided to go to the BBC, or the BBC approached him, and believe it, unbelievably, I don't think it sort of happened a few years ago. And again, this is a sign of how the times have changed. The BBC set up an interview in Buckingham Palace with him and Fiona Mathlis, one of their top interviewers. Emily Mathlis. And the interview is quite remarkable to watch because of his behaviour in it. Now, he claims that all the time he's known Jeffrey Epstein, there was never any indication of child abuse. He also says he has no recollection of meeting this girl, Virginia, at Ghislaine Maxwell's house, despite the photograph. He says he doesn't remember that photograph being taken. And his attitude is actually he sort of shrugs and he just says, I don't remember it. And there doesn't seem to be any outrage on the part of Prince Andrew, actually. If someone faked, I mean, Mathlis asked him, do you think this photo was faked? And he says, I don't know. It's odd. He seems oddly nonchalant about the whole thing.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds to me like really clever scripting from a team of lawyers that are maybe looking into the future where he may have to testify in a court. And at least when they look back at this interview, they can say, well, he didn't remember. He didn't deny it. He just didn't remember at the time, That selective memory thing going on. I tell you, maybe he needs his head seen to. I mean, it's terrible. It's like he's living in a Mandela effect. He can't remember what he was doing yesterday, but he can remember what flavour of pizza he was eating all that time ago.
That's
crazy.
Ridiculous. That is the ridiculous alibi he has. Because I tell you what, based on him talking to the FBI, Jeffrey's lawyer has actually said she wants him interviewed by the FBI. He says, I have a perfect alibi. He says, even though he doesn't remember any details of this party at Maxwell's house, he then says, I went to Pizza Express at Woking in Surrey, and a branch which has now become very, very popular. Funnily enough, there's no plaque on the wall or anything like that, or a photograph or anything like that, because I mean, Pizza Express, does Prince Andrew really go to Pizza Express? Does he sit there with all the others like all the proletariat, people like you and me, like queuing up while the waitress comes over and give you your £12.50 pizza? He's a prince of the realm. He's a prince. I mean, how often do these posh folk, these aristocrats, go to Pizza Express? I mean, I find that very unlikely. And again, if the prince really did drop in there, there'd be some kind of memento. I'm sure it'll be a bit of a legend in that particular branch.
Give you my theory on that. Give you my theory on that. You know that Italian food will trigger a whole team of researchers into that fake pizza shop kind of thing back in Washington. And they'll associate Andrew with that pizza shop and that P-gate that was doing the rounds. And when anyone new goes to look at the information surrounding Andrew, they're going to think it's associated with that really, really dodgy kind of psyop fake conspiracy. And attention is taken away again and diverted where it shouldn't be. And all the while, Ben, Andrew keeps going on. Nothing happens to those around Epstein. And it's business as usual.
Maybe that's the plan, Kev. Maybe it is. They want to associate the pizza thing again to distract.
It's so
people.
random. And then on the same day that morning on BBC Breakfast, they had a guy on there talking with a big pepperoni tie, talking about the case.
Oh,
and then last week on YouTube,
amazing, that tie. That tie wasn't selected by accident, was it?
And then you see, and then last week on YouTube, they've got Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel comparing what boxer shorts they wear because they're trying to prove they're different. And imagine what boxer shorts they've got on. Yeah, you guessed it, pepperoni ones. Just saying. And all of that in the build-up to Andrew coming out with that interview. I don't know, Ben. Colour me suspicious, my friend. It just seems a bit weird.
It seems like there's certain images being put into people's minds. Yeah, this is the subliminal programming that could be the plan. To basically to turn people's attention away from this. I hope it doesn't work. I mean, it's some of it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he comes up with really ridiculous things, such as because Robert said that she and he had sex numerous times actually when she was underage, and including on the island, the infamous Epstein's Island. She said she danced with him. He was, and she kissed him, and he was sweating and everything. And he claims, "Oh, I don't sweat." He says, "I don't sweat."
For a man that doesn't sweat, he was sweating.
He was certainly sweating that time, yeah. And I'll tell you what, maybe the only reason I can think of him not sweating is if he shapeshifted.
I was going to say, do reptiles typically have sweat glands? Maybe mid-shift. Who knows?
That's the only explanation I can think of for him not sweating. I mean, people. I don't know if there's a medical condition now.
Oh, come on, Ben. It was all that really front line kind of crack troop stuff he was doing down in the Falklands, when he was sitting eating prawn vol-au-vents on the furthest back ship in the bloody frigate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Oh, yeah. So there's all kinds of other weird things, like he seems... at one point, he was asked... another woman claims she gave him regular foot massages when she was a teenage girl, right? And he goes, and Mr. Bronfman, someone called Mr. Bronfman, who was apparently another guest at the island, who had some connection with the island. And Andrew, I mean, if someone had said that to me, I'd have said, no, damn it, no. Who's this Bronfman person? I want to know who he is, spreading these lies. And Andrew sort of shrugged and said, I'm afraid I don't know anything about it. I don't know this Mr. Bronfman. And there didn't seem to be there was no outrage on his part. At one point, he was literally asked straight out, "Is Roberts lying about you?" And he says, "That's a difficult question to answer, Emily." I thought, what? It's almost like he's skirting around the subject. You know what I mean? I'd love to get what's his name? Peter Hyatt, the guy who
yeah, man,
Richard D. Hall gets to people analyze statements and things like that. I'd love to see him do a takedown of this. In fact, Hyatt might well do this.
Well, I mean, the body language I've seen, and I'm no body language expert, but I've never seen anyone squirming about in a chair so much. He had his arms all crossed, and he was hiding himself, and, well, he has got stuff to cover up, do you know what I mean? But, I laugh and I joke, and it's kind of to temper my outrage, because I don't want to, rant too much on it. What really pisses me off, though, Ben, is, and I want your opinion on this, will we see anything happening to any of these people? And bear in mind, at the end of the day, what Andrew is accused by Guthrie Roberts, whatever her name is now, she was of age at the time. And I don't think there's any... Well, with her anyway, I don't think it falls into the underage bracket because of our age of consent over here and things the same as Epstein. But the likes of Maxwell as well, all the people around him, are we going to see anything happening, dude? Or are we all just going to spend this time chasing our tails as usual? And then probably what will happen is, unfortunately, the victims will all start getting picked off one by the media. Because then once they demonize them, that's job done. It's move on.
Well, this sort of thing can either flare up or clear out. Now, I do sense... there's probably a lot more out there which we haven't had yet in terms of information, because in a sense this is low-hanging fruit. This photograph of him with Roberts is low-hanging fruit because, as you said, she's 17 when that photo was taken in April 2001. She was 17. Now, what she's accusing him of is this was not the first time she met him. She knew him before, and she was underage, according to the laws of both Britain and the United States. And they were canoodling back then. Now, are there any photographs of that? Because maybe there are, but Epstein kept them for his blackmail purposes. In which case, are they going to become available at some point? Because, I mean, I am encouraged by this, Kev. I'm encouraged by the fact that this is something that probably, if this happened a few years ago, well, it wouldn't have happened a few years ago. A few years ago, this was, of course, was going on, and just no one talked about it. And now it's clearly coming out into the open, even in small stages, or in rather attenuated forms. And I'm hoping this will go further. It could go either one way. It could go further, and it could flare up, and we could get more and more information, and there's going to be further revelations. Or, as you said, the pizza boxer shorts might do their trick, and they might subliminally program people into backing off slowly but surely, so that this goes away. But we won't know yet. But I'd like to say, first of all, Prince Andrew didn't kill himself.
Well, you're a lot more optimistic than I am, and I like that. I do. But because it's the establishment involved over here, unfortunately, this is a weird thing to say, and you'll get it. If you're on Twitter or anything like that, folks, you'll know exactly what I mean. There's more outrage over mispronouncing somebody than there is over this case. Now, it could well be that the algorithms are skewing things and we're not seeing it all. I get that. I really do get that. But at the same time, it does seem like if there's anything that happens in that world, misgendering or something that angers the woke brigade, people are absolutely triggered. They're mind controlled to be triggered at that stuff. But then you hear about stuff like this, people just scroll by it. That shows you, I tell you, people have been so distracted and been brainwashed into reacting over all the wrong topics, all the wrong things. Their priorities are upside down.
Unfortunately, and I hope that changes. Like yourself, I suppose I've always been a bit more of an optimist than you, Kev. But
the only thing I'm optimistic about, which is weird, is the technology. And so many people are scared of that. So I don't know, dude. I don't know.
I think it all fits together. One thing will lead to another, definitely. But I don't know for certain what the outcome of this will be. I don't. But it seems to be part of a building pattern that we see across the board in other things, in other subjects, which is more and more we're seeing that secrets are getting harder to keep. Tactics when it comes to disinformation and distraction seem to be changing. It's almost like we're getting a backlash now from the government and from their agents in the psychological warfare arena. But their tactics have had to change as a result of this. So I am cautiously optimistic. I'm encouraging, and I think what we'll see in the future with Epstein not killing himself, we might see other non-suicides as well. I know that Virginia Roberts herself, Miss Jeffrey, she's watching her back. I know that I've always said that Ghislaine Maxwell should be very careful. It may come to the point where they may have to take a choice between killing someone off, knowing that it'll wake people up, and allowing more information to come out, in which case they may decide to take more people out. You may see, as you said, the witnesses disappearing, the witnesses being silenced, going off the public area, or maybe having heart attacks and unfortunate accidents.
And anyone that accuses anybody in this country, usually the MO, the modus operandi of the cover-up, at some point there's a stage where the victims become the target, and there'll be dirt dragged up on them. And the minute they can change the public's perception of the victim into something other than a victim, that's it. It's done. And they'll move on, and people will be given the next story to go and concentrate on. And I hate to say it, but this has been going on forever, Ben. It's been going on forever. And look at ABC. ABC, one news organisation, blatantly part of this cover-up from this whole story, right?
Well, this is really incredible because ABC News is one of these prime mainstream media journalist outlets. This is really quite incredible. But something new has come out from James O'Keefe's Project Veritas in the United States. And it's a really weird thing. It's rather like a kind of unfunny real-life Jonathan Pye sketch. I don't know if you're familiar with the
yeah.
Jonathan Pye, the newsreader who, when he's off the air, suddenly starts, his mask slips and he starts telling the truth. It's so funny. If you haven't, check him out on YouTube. But this is something similar, but it's not funny. Amy Robach, who was a famous newsreader on ABC, basically when the broadcast is cut, she starts talking to several people. There's someone in the studio with her, but she's talking to someone in the gallery as well through her microphone and earpiece, and she starts speaking really amazingly. She starts speaking about her frustration, and the videotape is still rolling. This was recorded and it was released to Project Veritas by someone on the inside at ABC. Must have been someone quite high up too. But she says, she was really annoyed because she said that she had exclusive testimony from Virginia Roberts Jeffrey 3 years earlier. And she said that she was investigating this because she's a journalist as well as a newsreader. And basically, ABC quashed the story. And she was very upset by this. And what's really interesting is she was fobbed off by her media bosses. But then an objection came in, firstly from Alan Dershowitz, who was Epstein's solicitor, but also the palace called and threatened them in a million different ways, as she put it. So the Queen herself got involved in this because, and that's obviously because of the connection to Prince Andrew. This is a massive embarrassment to her, of course. And this is it. She said that she had evidence implicating Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and all kinds of other things. And she's basically lamenting to people that this was silenced. She said she had plans to interview Kate and Will at the palace, which of course must refer to Prince William and Kate Middleton, and all kinds of other things. So interesting there, Kev.
Never a dull moment with the reptilian royals. We'll be right back after these short messages. Don't go anywhere. There we go, ladies and gents. We are still on the YouTube, so I want to give everyone a shout out there. Great to see everyone there. Please, if you can, remember to simulcast the show yourself. And what I mean by that is you can open up a tab, go to tfrlive.com/chat, and then if you can multitask, you've got double the fun. And still with myself and Ben here. And one last quick thing before we go on to the YouTube audience out there, and in particular the great members on the channel. We only need
to take a break. Sorry, Kev, I've got to take a break.
On you go, brother. On you go.
Mate.
Yeah, we've only got 4 more members to go before we get the new Mothman emoji. And today, big shout out to the team at YouTube that work on the memberships because they've selected our channel here to run a new experiment. So in the next couple of days, don't get a fright if you see a little message, a little banner across the bottom of the videos when you go and watch them in replay. It's going to be a message about memberships and also a thank you. Yeah, thank you to all of our current members as well. So I just want you to not get afraid or wonder what the hell's going on when you see something popping up on the video. So that's a new feature that they're going to be trying out here on the channel. So that's something for us to either laugh at, maybe it'll be great, who knows. But we'll experience it together. And apologies for not making it onto the safe space today. I'm going to do a little longer safe space tomorrow. Had a busy day today. So again, I hope you all understand because I was just, when you've been rushing about like that, I would have been going half-baked, half-bakered. And it's not fair on you giving up your time to come and watch when my 100% effort isn't quite behind it. But I'll be back tomorrow at 120%. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So yes, indeed. And Jason, nice to see you joining my my cult following over on Facebook. I'm having a laugh, folks, but 5,000 friends it tells you have. Although I suppose there's probably like 2 or 3 less now. But yeah, I call it the cult because, you know, I have a laugh and a joke. I'm barely on Facebook, barely on there. And I've got these 5,000 friends kicking about. I talk to maybe a handful of people. Best place to get a hold of me is Twitter, at the Kev Baker Show, or join the Discord server, KBS Discord at protonmail.com. And then I'm there at your fingertips 24/7. You can get a hold of me. You can share stories. You can share links. You can try and give me guest requests, but I've explained that on the stream before. We'll get to them when the time's right, when the mood's right. So yeah, Ben, when we come back after the break, we've done the Prince, and I want to get deeper now as we went into ABC there. That takes us over the pond into the Patsy. And I called him a Patsy because it went with the Prince. It's more the fall guy. Because Epstein, you know, I think this story, they would really love it to end and die with him in that cell, okay? So when we come back after the break, that's what we'll get into.
Is this the prison guard? The prison
guard?
Yeah,
well, you're the celebrity attorney or the celebrity kind of coroner who has come out and said it couldn't have been.
That, yes, that's Baden.
Yeah.
Yes, Baden. That is...
to keep everyone focusing on that one cell, you know?
Yeah. Mind you, I mean, what he says is really interesting, but, you know, of course...
I think so, Ben. When you look at his history, if you pay him enough money, he'll say whatever you want. But here we go. There we go. We're back. We're live. Just like that, we have emerged from the other dimension. Thank you for tuning into today's Kev Baker Show right here on the #1 network, Truth Frequency Radio, where silence is consent and we give you the very best of protection from deception. Yes, indeed. TFRlive.com. We've also got a chat room over there, TFRlive.com/chat. So a big shout out to everyone listening on iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn Radio apps, over at the YouTube simulcast. And I'm here with Ben Emlyn-Jones, author, researcher, public speaker, and today, royal commentator. Yes, we've been here a couple of times before, Ben. I feel like we should maybe have one of these kind of, you see the gazebo out in front of the palace? We can do open air. We can stand with the open mic. We'll go round the fawning crowds all, you know, sitting there begging and worshipping that royal reptilian. I think the BBC are missing a stroke, dude. We'd be the perfect characters to give the 24/7 coverage on all of this.
Hey, one day, Kev, you never know. I mean, that would be quite something. Literally, it would take 5 or 6 sentences, wouldn't it? I mean, literally 2 minutes on the air.
Last time I was at Buckingham, and I'm not even joking, folks, the one time I was at Buckingham, I had my anonymous mask on, and it was Bilderberg 2013, and I immediately had to near enough run away from the gates because behind me, I was made aware of the fact that the armed cops were starting to come over, and they weren't aiming, but they certainly had a threatening position out of there. I've never moved so fast since I was in the army, dude. Terrified. All for wearing a mask outside the palace, eh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's these new bylaws they got. I mean, it's pretty
crazy.
awful.
It's crazy. So anyway, we were getting into the Prince, and now we're going to get into the Patsy. And it's more the fall guy than the Patsy. And of course, I think everyone involved, UK establishment, the cabals over in America, anyone connected with this very questionable banker, Jeffrey Epstein, they all want that story to die with him in that cell. So what's been happening, the latest with the of Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes, this suicide. He took his own life in his own cell. Now, we've gone into this in previous shows about how it's literally impossible for the official story of his death to be true. It's literally impossible.
Ben, what's Jeffrey Epstein and Christmas lights got in common?
Something.
They don't hang themselves.
And I got to remember that one. That's great. I'll bring that up at the Christmas dinner.
Stole of Jonesy. Stole of Jonesy. He's got it on a T-shirt. So,
well done, Jonesy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is, of course, we've talked in previous shows about the Epstein, about his supposed suicide, and about the fact that there's been a lot of disinformation as well. For example, supposed photographs of him being taken to hospital. There's stories about his cellmate, even though, well, when they published the diagrams of the cell, you could see, and indeed this is confirmed, that the people at this particular prison are kept in solitary confinement. But so there's all kinds of other nonsense and ideas that, he's living in Israel. Someone saw him on the beach at Tel Aviv and things like this. And again, absolute nonsense. But the most interesting development this has come from a man called Dr. Michael Barden. Now, he's a former New York City medical examiner, and he's one of the most prominent people within the profession of forensic medicine. He's been working, he's doing this for 60 years. And quite suspiciously, actually, he's worked on the deaths of John F. Kennedy and Nicole Brown Simpson, who was a woman allegedly murdered by her estranged husband, O.J. Simpson. Now, he was hired by Epstein's brother to supervise the post-mortem examination on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, he's not the only doctor to question whether Epstein took his own life. There's someone called Dr. Kevin Casey, who's very interesting too. He's done several interviews. Check him out. And he doesn't have the political connections that Baden does, but he agrees with a lot of the conclusions. Now, what this is about is because it's to do with something called the hyoid. Now, it's Epstein's hyoid. Now, you may not have heard of a hyoid, but you have one. It's a little bone just here, as you could feel. It's in your throat. You could feel it if you put your hands just here below where your chin ends. And now this the damage this suffers during death can reveal a lot about whether a person was strangled by somebody else or by themselves. And that's very interesting. Now, there's other questions as well, like whether the DNA, like there was no DNA on the bed sheet, which he supposedly used as the suicide weapon. But the hyoid, Epstein's hyoid, indicates that he was strangled by someone else. It was not a hanging by himself. And this is really, really interesting. And when he came out with this, it's quite amusing because it's putting the critics, the believers in the official story, on the back foot. Those who believe Epstein really did commit suicide are now starting to look the way we would have looked a few years ago, talking about the things we talk about. And I find that very amusing indeed. It's quite something. It really is quite something. But there may be more going on here. I mean, I think Dr. Michael Barden himself, I mean, is he to be trusted, Kev? That's the question.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's hard to tell. And I mean, it's certainly his testimony, his evidence that he's providing. Now, I'm not calling into question his expertise or anything. I suppose you look at some of the cases he's worked on, and there's an argument to be made that he's almost like an attorney for cash, the highest bidder. But I mean, we all think, or we all pretty much know, that it was impossible for Epstein to have done what we were told he done. Mm-hmm. And this bone that's broken, like you say, I mean, that actually, we should have expected that to turn up if we were going to get an honest kind of opinion from somebody. And I quite believe what Baden's saying here, because it fits with the scenario that a lot of us think took place. Now, what took place in that cell, I have no idea. I just don't think it was what we were told. You've got the cellmate removed beforehand. You've got the perfect kind of storm of the guards falling asleep, CCTV failing, all of this just perfectly timed. And then, I don't know.
It's a convenient series of events, you could say. Serendipitous for anyone who wanted Epstein out the way. And indeed, whether loads of people wanted him out the way, as we talked about in previous shows, they've just stopped the celebrity trial of the century. It would have been like the O.J. Simpson trial on acid.
Yep.
It really would. I mean, and other names would have come up. Names.
Well, that's what I was led to believe. And again, it could be totally wrong, but there was somebody who was either on InfoWars or somewhere talking about the fact that he had been telling his lawyer to get ready because they were going to give evidence. And if he was in any way getting ready to give any evidence, for whatever reason, maybe he knew the writing was on the wall, whatever, then at that point, you can't leave him out there to testify. I'm sorry. And you're dealing with some really powerful people here on both sides of the pond. I'm not pointing the finger at who done it. I cannot possibly know. But I tell you what, there was a lot of people breathing easier when that news came out. Put it that way.
Well, slightly easier, perhaps. I mean, but not completely. This must have been a bit of a dilemma for the people keeping the secret behind Epstein and the full.
You see what happens now, though, or my fear. This Baden report, the one that points out that there probably was shenanigans versus the suicide that the state ruled and everything else. Again, we're almost been drawn in like bees to the honey. Oh, and while we all kind of speculate and argue over our various things of what did go down in the cell, or did he jump, was he pushed, it's back to the same thing again, isn't it? Because we're not really taking advantage of the opportunity afforded by this, opening up the can of worms, Ben, you know?
Well, I do wonder if we're being set up simply for a story which may come out, which is like a fallback position, which is, yes, he was murdered, but it was somehow one of the other prisoners managed to get into his solitary cell and kill him. I mean, and there was another massive blunder allowed this prisoner access to his cell and allowed him to kill Epstein. And that's possibly the story that's going to come out over this. It could be the fallback story we're going to get. It could be that Baden's evidence will be used to reinforce that. However, I wonder how many people will believe it. And this is the dilemma that I think the keepers of the secrets have had to face, because they know very well that by killing Epstein or staging his suicide, they know very well that a lot of people won't believe it. And indeed, most people don't. They know very well that this will draw attention to people like us who've been saying from the start that Epstein did not act alone, in the same way that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. And funny enough, he died 2 days after shooting Kennedy, which is a day later, I'd rather. And again, what would have happened if Lee Harvey Oswald had a trial? Things like that. But so they know very well that by taking out such an important linchpin in the public inquiry into what happened, they make themselves look, in a sense, they incriminate themselves more, and they make the suspicious alternative stories sound more credible. They know this when they did this, but they obviously totted that up against the disadvantages of leaving him alive, which we've already talked about, the fact that he would go to trial. There'll be a very, very high-profile public trial. And in America, this is done far more depth than it is in our country. For example, in our country, no one can film or take photographs in a courtroom. This is why they have an artist with doing chalk tableaus which go onto the news. In the United States, they could turn a courtroom into a TV studio anytime, and they know very well that everyone will be glued to it. It'll be like O.J. Simpson all over again, plus 10. So
I would love, again, I hate this because I sound so pessimistic, but in America right now, more people are probably talking about Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback, who's trying to get back into the NFL, the woke one that took the knee. Again, more people over here probably interested in the general election, what's going on there. And we could do a bajillion shows on this, and everyone in the alternative media could do a bajillion shows on this. But the only people who are going to see it are people who already know this stuff. And I say that because when you go to search for this type of alternative information now, Ben, wherever you are, you get hit with the official story. And you're maybe 10 pages deep before you're lucky if you come across somebody like us talking the way we are talking. And it's all the mainstream that comes up first. And we know how the general public act. People who might not be as clued up or as awake as us and know how the mainstream work, they're not going to go 10 pages in a search to look for us. They're going to get that party line, the official story. And on the off chance that they do find something alternative, something like us, hopefully then we can bring them into the ranks. But it's a whole lot harder than it was a few years ago because we're fighting such a battle now, Ben, aren't we? Because they don't want these alternative views on this story or most stories out there. You know, it's getting harder and harder.
There are no guarantees, Kev. None at all. I mean, I don't know how this is going to end. As it said in the famous line in The Matrix, I don't know the ending. All I know is the beginning. And indeed, this could turn out to fizzle out. It could clear out before it flares up. And indeed, there are so many things to distract people. You mentioned all the scandals that are coming out, all the nonsense, all the
anything can be a distraction if we allow it to be, Ben. Right? Anything.
Yeah, that is the challenge we face. We're dealing with experts in psychological warfare who are these people have access to, the keepers of the secret have access to. So I don't know whether they will be successful or not. And I wish I could guarantee that we'll win this one in the end, but I can't.
Pitchforks, Ben. Pitchforks.
I hope we will.
Pitchforks, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably come to that, yeah. But you know what? All we can do is, I think we should just carry on doing what we're doing now and doing the best we can to get this information out there so we can win this information war. Whether we succeed or not, we'll only know at the end of the day, but we have to try, Kev. We have to try.
Yep. And I would
the way to
recommend
see it.
anyone that's listening to this, go and check out Sean Atwood, because he's probably doing the most consistent and frequent and in-depth kind of digging into not just this case, but a whole other host of real crime stuff as well. Great guy. I'm going to get him back on the show soon. Really loved having him on. And again, I won't be covering this as much as maybe other shows from now on, unless something big happens and there's something new to bring you. But to sit and repeat it again and again, day after day, it serves no purpose other than probably to bore all of you to death. And what does it do in the real world? Are we really helping to put this stuff to an end? It isn't, unfortunately. But unless, and like Ben says, perhaps this is the occasion. Perhaps because we're in the apocalypse now. Not the apocalypse, Armageddon stuff, the revealing. Everything coming to the surface.
That's what it means.
Yep, exactly. So perhaps I am overly pessimistic, and I hope I am. I really hope I am. I would love to come back on here in a month, be watching all of these clowns get rounded up, and say to you, sorry folks, you know, I'll lay off the pessimism now. Everything's good, kumbaya, the justice system's fixed, everyone's in jail, all these young people are saved, we can get on with playing our games and things. But I don't know, Ben, I don't know.
Well, even I, who probably take a more optimistic line than yourself, I know very well it won't be as simple as that.
No.
And we are going, supposing all the truth comes out of what we've been talking about, and we come back on the next show, and there's a whole load of people in jail, and as you said, the kids are free or stuff. But people are going to see the full extent of what's been going on over the years and throughout history, actually. And it's going to blow people's minds. You are going to see people weeping in the streets. It's going to be that shocking. This is not going to be something that will be easy for us to heal from. But I mean, when we have the truth, that's the first stage towards healing. And when everyone accepts the truth and there's no more secrets, that's the first stage towards healing. But healing will be a long, torturous process. And I think this is the theme of my books, actually, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, and its 2 sequels, especially the last of the 3 books. Shameless plug, you know, but the last one in particular is about that healing process and how difficult it will be. But it has to happen, Kev. One way or another, it has to happen, as there's no other way out of it. There's no other way forward. Either it'll be very, very difficult or slightly difficult. I hope it'll only be slightly difficult.
Well, Neil in the chat room was saying that the general public, they're talking all about this. This will be the time. And where I am, and again, in Scotland, it's different, of course, but I don't see anyone outside of the people I talk to who know about all of this stuff. There's some people I know don't even know who bloody Jeffrey Epstein is. And if they've heard his name, they don't care. They're back to the football, or they're back on their social media, they're back to doing whatever they're doing, and that's no criticism of them, because everyone's on their own journey. But I tell you, people, you just look around the world, and whether it's this story, Ben, whether it's so many other topics you could look at, our priorities are just so wrong. Not us listening to this, we get it. And I'm grateful that we've got all these people tuning in. I'm grateful that all these thousands of people are getting it. But does it change what's happening? And I know I should be encouraged. I should be. But look what happened. And remember Hampstead? Remember I covered that? Remember that?
Yeah.
You know, I got the feeling the other day when I was watching Andrew doing the interview, it just cast my mind back to the Hampstead dad and the interview he done with the BBC. And it all went away after that. It all just died down, and here we all are. The BBC, yeah? The same place that gave kind of shelter to Jimmy Savile for about 40 years within its HQ, knowing what was going on. Yeah, they're the mob that they call in to do the cover-up at the palace, folks.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely no one should get the idea that the BBC has had a change of heart and it's trying to expose Prince Andrew. Absolutely not. I mean, Prince Andrew's done a damn good job of exposing himself in that interview, but it wasn't with the BBC's assistance, I'm absolutely sure. I mean, someone made a good point, actually, Kev, about the ABC thing with Amy Robach. Someone actually said, well, okay, Amy, you feel frustrated that you were thwarted in your investigation and your desire to bring Epstein out, and he could have been out, he could have been in jail 3 years earlier. But why didn't you do so independently? Why didn't you publicise it independently? She's in a position to do that, being a household name. She could have done. And why didn't she? It's a form of groupthink, Kev. That's the problem. The people in the media, even those who are not outwardly malicious, still have that kind of groupthink about them. And it's as if this was not something she considered, because her position was one which hang on, no, I'm ABC, I'm an ABC News anchor, as they call it in the States.
A news reader.
And I can't do that kind of thing.
A news reader.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're script readers. They get their teleprompter. And I get there's real journalists out there, real investigative journalists, absolutely. And not all journalists are bad, not all of them lie. It's ridiculous to think that. There's good ones out there. But when they're working for these bigger kind of entities, corporations, one of the big news owned by those 6 companies, then literally all they're doing is turning up and reading a script.
Sure, it would have. She wouldn't be able to turn up and read the script anymore. She'd lost her job with a high salary and stuff like that. But unfortunately, she's in a position. This a lot of us could be in this position, where we come across the information about crimes against humanity, and it's our responsibility to expose that and to put a stop to it. And unfortunately, it could be in a position that losing our 6-figure salary job might be the price we have to pay. Well, unfortunately, you've just got to pay it, and she should have done.
I agree with you, dude.
That's an example. I mean, there's been other examples of people like, remember when the Jimmy Savile thing broke? And there's all those people coming out and saying, oh, yeah, we sort of knew about it, kind of, but, shrugging their shoulders like that. But it's the Milgram experiment, Kev, going back to that, human obedience, the fact that we can make excuses for ourselves so easily.
We were listening on here yesterday to Aristocrat, that's what they described her, I can't remember her name, who was arguing with Piers Morgan. No fan of Piers Morgan, but she was talking about the fact, or she was trying to differentiate between sex with young people and prostitution of minors. She said it was a totally different thing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. GM.
I'll
show you. I'll show you. It's everywhere, dude. The Daily Mail had it. Yeah, I'll send you after the show. I showed it yesterday. Got away with it. Somehow it slipped through the algorithm, but it's shocking. And the reason we played it on the show yesterday was because it kind of highlights the attitude of the elites, the establishment over here. Because she was almost looking at Piers Morgan as if to say, what's wrong with you? Why can't you... I mean, are you weird, Piers, because you don't think this is normal? They think this is normal. They see nothing wrong with it. They're absolutely outraged that Andrew or any of them should be getting called into question right now. It's terrible.
I mean, there's several politicians have called for the age of consent to be lowered, because in Britain currently it's 16, and they've pointed out that in other countries, especially on the continent, it's 2 or 3 years lower than that. And I think possibly their motivations are they're scared about facing criminal charges. However, I do wonder, Kev, some people talked about this, about whether paedophilia, or I've got the hebephilia, I think the name is, where it's young teenagers who take your fancy. They're trying to normalise it. And there's an attempt to make it more mainstream and more acceptable.
I think this ties in with why they're confusing children in schools at a younger and younger age and introducing them to the subject of sex in various forms.
I was shocked by that, Kev. I really was. I mean, I learned about the birds and the bees at school when I was about 11 or 12.
And I giggled all my way through it and just wanted I wanted the whole period to end so I could get back to playing football. I've never been so uncomfortable looking at private parts and oh my word, you're a young guy, get that away from me. Come on. And that, like you say, that's 10 or 11 years old. Let kids be kids, for goodness sake.
I've seen stories of children being given not just sex ed, not just the basics of sex and childbirth, the biological side, but a lot of the social side of sex as well, at an extraordinarily young age. We're talking about...
there was a school in Birmingham at 5.
Primary school.
5 in Birmingham, there was a school.
Oh, that's the first year of school.
Yep. And they were learning a book about the prince and the footman, where the footman and the prince fall in love and why it's okay for that. At 5 years old.
He said that's much too young for that sort of thing. Much too young. Now, of course, some kids may be in a situation where they have two parents of the same sex, and legally they're these two parents.
And that should be up to the parents.
Exactly. The thing about it is, if you're in that situation, then that's something you should be working out at home. It shouldn't be talked about at school. There's a big difference, you see. It's almost like the state is stepping into the parental role again. And they've done this many, many times. You know, I think most listeners know about the story about them trying to take my daughter's fingerprints at school and the fuss I made about it. It's really, it's this idea that you see in George Orwell's 1984, that there'll be no love except love of Big Brother. The family have to go out and work, and the state says, well, don't worry about your children. We'll take care of them for you. That's the way I feel things are going, Kev.
It's weird. It's David Icke, who we both love. I steal off him all the time because he's right. And he says, know the outcome, you see the journey. Yeah. And you do. I mean, we've known for years they try to break up families, right? And I could go totally Aldous Huxley on this. You could go Brave New World with it, where we eventually live in a society where reproduction, biological reproduction that got all of us here is a thing of the past. And it'll just be state-assigned children, like the book from the reproduction hatchery.
Oh, good, yes. I mean, that was quite shocking, that the books. And
I know, and again, folks, I'm not saying that's where we're going. I'm not saying that's the trajectory. But if this is the journey that we're on, what is the outcome?
Well, it seems that we have a situation now. I'm not sure this is the case, but we have a man who's widely respected, a member of the royal family, the son of the Queen, who's, I think he's sixth in line to the throne, who is now being associated with all kinds of what would be, in case of you and me, immoral and criminal acts.
Or as he calls it, behaviour unbecoming. Yes, we'll be back after the break, folks. Don't go anywhere. I'm telling you. Yes, indeedy. So we're back. Yes, I'll let the old temperature go down again now, Mr. Ben.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I hate them, man. I hate them. And I wish, dude. I wish all of this would come to an end. I wish a magic wand or some fucking porthole we could go through. I don't know, but...
Yeah, it'd be wonderful if it was that simple, but I wish it was, yeah. I mean, of course it's not, and you're right, we are up against incredible opposition here, really intense...
we're up against
warfare experts,
especially in this country.
Resources.
I mean, this country, let's just disconnect reality altogether. Let's pull the USB out the back of our heads for a moment. Andrew has done something wrong. Where do we haul him? His mum's court? With one of his mum's judges?
Yeah, this is the system we have. This is the legal system. The legal system doesn't stand above society, a neutral arbiter over all citizens. The legal system is designed by politicians and by the state to protect the state and its assets, which means that's the point. Isn't
the BBC really state TV? Yes. In reality? So yeah, they get state TV in to do the honest grilling of Prince Andrew.
It's government owned. I mean, even in countries where it's like these are corporate entities. The corporations and the state are just two sides of they're two fists on the same boxer. They're just. So yeah, I mean, they obviously are promoting the official story. There's never going to be a proper investigation from the BBC into this matter.
We love the BBC, don't we, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if anyone's frustrated, it's the BBC because Prince Andrew did such a lousy job at the interview.
Oh, it's terrible. So badly. Did the PR agent not resign like halfway through it or something?
They're probably regretting it. They probably think, come on, Andrew. I mean, come on.
No, I honestly think that's how out of touch that family are. They probably all think that was an absolutely splendid, a magnificent performance, Andrew. You were so fine. Yes, indeed. That's how out of touch they are.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Christopher Everard. I mean, his documentaries about this, I really do recommend. I mean,
Everard. I think it might be time to get Everard and you on for a special. Oh, that could be a powerful show.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I've interviewed Christopher myself, and you have as well, and we have done shows together with him. I know. And it'd be nice to do that again. A special one about the royal family, Kev.
Yep.
Sign me up for that one.
So where next? Where next, Ben? In your grab bag of topics?
Oh my God! Well, I sent you. What was the other one I sent you? Let's have a look.
Was it the Baghdadi and his multiple wives?
That's interesting, isn't it?
Wherever you want to go, dude. As long as I don't go back into the royals, I think I might get triggered if I go back there. I controlled myself relatively well. Coney keeps me right here. Coney, see, Coney's even fallen off now. He's lost the plot because of it.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like you said, I share your frustration when people are like looking at the latest scandal over the big, the various, the Big Brother TV. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking as you were talking about that, the Big Brother TV show, which is named, of course, after the Orwellian state.
And you've got all those non-celebrities going into the jungle.
Yeah.
A general election going on. Oh, it's bread and circuses in the UK, my friend. There was like a riot outside the Big Brother house at one point because supporters of the different housemates were fighting each other like football fans. Dude, it's wrong, isn't it?
What? I mean, it's so I think there's some people you're never going to reach. I mean, there's a very good Swedish proverb that goes, "It is impossible to wake up a man who is pretending to be asleep."
That's a very good one.
That's the situation we're in, I think.
I really do like. I'm gonna have to write that down in a minute. Here we go. Welcome back to the second hour of today's Kev Baker Show, and I love it when today's guest rolls into town. It's Ben Emlyn-Jones, in my opinion, one of the best speakers, one of the best researchers, one of the best guests that a host on a show like me can hope for. And he's here today, like I say. Remember to check out his websites. Ben, where can people go and check out all the work you do, man? Because you're tireless, dude.
I have a number of websites centered around the Herpanmo blog. That's Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. I have the best one to go to is the one Kev is showing now, which is Herpanmo Voice, Herpanmo-voice.blogspot.co.uk, because that's my news blog, which I update very, very regularly.
That's what I go for, all things Ben.
Oh, definitely, that's the best place to start, because the main site is really I just put big articles. It's like the portal to the others. But I also I have a radio show like Kev called the Herpanmo Show, and I do several others, and I have a YouTube channel, and I write books, including Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, and it's got 2 sequels: Roswell Revealed, Roswell Redeemed. So do check those out. They're £10 each from Amazon or any other good bookshop. I really, really do recommend those if you're interested in the things me and Kev talk about. Not just UFOs, but other things as well.
And you do. You talk to some of the biggest characters in the whole disclosure kind of thing. You've had Steve Bassett on a number of times, I believe. You really do, Ben. You speak to some really big people out there. I don't think a lot of the people that might tune in and hear you only hear once a month. Maybe they don't appreciate the kind of stuff that you do away from here. You do so much good work, dude.
Thanks, mate. And I do recommend to listeners, check out to the things that I do as well with on my own platform. Because if you want more of me, that's where to go. And I like Kev. I do like interviews and I do investigations. Steve Bassett's a good guy. I've had him on the show a couple of times, and he's really, really interesting to talk about the disclosure issue. And I think he understands some of the points that Kev and I have been bringing up this evening about Prince Andrew. And he understands that as it relates to the UFO issues. I've got a cold.
Yeah, you've just been getting over a cold as well. Now, there's been other big dramatic stories occurring in the mainstream. Go figure. And not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times a Baghdadi. Yeah, it's the multiple lives of the leader of the Foot Clan, those wearing black pajamas over in the Middle East. Yes, indeed. Al-Baghdadi is terminated again. And again. Yeah. And again and again. What's happening, Ben?
Well, it's real this time. Honest.
Yeah, because I mean, they buried him at sea again the same way that we never believed about Bin Laden, and everything's cool.
It's incredible, but this has been confirmed this time. I mean, he's been reported dead think 3 times before. But it's almost like he's like Doctor Who, he keeps regenerating. And he's now he has several. This guy or guys, I mean, he's got several names. Along with his regular one, he's called Ibrahim Awad Ibrahim, Ali Al-Badri Al-Samadi, Al-Shabar the Ghost, and Farlan Ramsey is a remarkably ordinary name there.
The Ghost. That's a cool name for a terrorist leader, man, and for him especially, because he's like he's got so many ghosts going about. I don't know, dude.
No, he's like, he's like one of these evil people, the Mohammed Evil Al-Turban, sort of Emmanuel Goldstein snowball type character. If you read George Orwell, you'll know what I mean by that. It is, the big boogeyman that you focus your hatred on, and you throw your shoes out and you have your hate week, as you see them doing in 1984. Goldstein, and things like that. And he's like this figure, the one that used to be occupied by Osama bin Laden. But he's been playing this role since Osama bin Laden was killed. I'm talking about the 3rd time Osama bin Laden was killed. And he was hiding out, apparently. This is the story. He was hiding out in a place, in like a fortress, in one of these Islamic State fortresses. Apparently it took him a long time to find him. It took him several months to find him, but he was at this little place in a town called Barisha, which is northwestern Syria, and American Special Forces carried out a raid, and they burst into the compound. They blew a hole in the wall with explosives. They ran in with sniffer dogs to try and find him, and he hid apparently in a tunnel. And there's a lot of dramatic stories about his death, about how he cowered and whimpered and things like this.
It's going to look great in the Hollywood version.
Oh, I mean, I can't wait for the movie. I mean, there'll be some kind of gung-ho movie, with very little intellectual content and a lot of bravado and usual sort of thing.
I want Ali G to play him, like in the style of Borat. I want to play him in the style of Borat. Yes.
Oh, I'd love that. I would love that. That'd be great. I'm sure that hopefully there'll be a satirical remake as well. But apparently he committed suicide by detonating a suicide vest, which he just happened to have on. Does he sleep in it? I mean, what if he presses the button accidentally in his sleep? It's a bit weird like that. But anyway, the soldiers took away his body. I mean, I imagine if the story's true, then he'd have been in several pieces, and they'd have probably put him in a bag or something. And they also removed documents. They had computers, mobile phones, and things like that. And then they blew the place up with an airstrike. But it's really, we have no independent confirmation that this happened, because the body was disposed of. DNA samples were taken and apparently confirmed. They obviously worked very hard. They obviously had the laboratory on standby at the base. And then the parts of his body were dumped in the sea. Now,
the way I see it, Ben, right? If people don't believe what happened to bin Laden, you can't believe what happened to Baghdadi, because it's near enough an exact carbon copy. Now, I get it. What we were told, it's horrendous, dragging family members into tunnels, things like that. And if that happened, absolutely, totally shocking. But you're talking about somebody, if he was real at the same time, if you're buying into that narrative, you're buying into the narrative that this guy was going about killing people everywhere. Now, that doesn't justify what happened to his family. But again, if you don't believe what happened to bin Laden, I find it hard to believe how you can believe what happened to Baghdadi. Because the multiple deaths, the fact that they both fronted up, in reality, a Western intelligence operation, because they were just the rebranded Al-Qaeda. You had McCain going over there to the Middle East, sitting with the moderate rebels at the start, where Baghdadi is in one of the pictures, giving them arms and ammunition. So, I tell you, if anyone's alive, more chance of him being alive, living on an island, than Epstein.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It is remarkably, it's almost like history repeating itself, Kev. It honestly is. Again, you have like the fact that ISIS was essentially creation of the CIA, Mossad, Western intelligence network. As we talked about, the funding, the arming. It's very obvious this was a regular army. It was not a guerrilla force. We talked on previous shows about the equipment they were using, the uniforms, the weapons, the vehicles, and things like that. All of it organized, all at a very high level, and also the the death of bin Laden. Now, I remember the supposed death of Osama bin Laden because I was on night shift at the time and it was on the TV. Everyone was watching it in the department. And I ran home at the end of it all and I switched on the TV and there was an interview on BBC News with some anti-terrorist expert from the American embassy who'd been brought into the studio. And he said, so what's going to happen now? And they said, oh, Osama bin Laden, his body now is going to be returned to the United States. It's going to be taken to the United States. It's going to be examined in detail, and it's going to be viewed by members of the press. There'll probably be some official photographs once he's been cleaned up a bit, sort of like autopsy photos, which will be published to the press. And there'll be probably at least 2 weeks of that, and then eventually the body will be returned to the family for burial. But it'll be at least 2 weeks he'll be in the States on ice. And I thought, right, so I waited for this. And then, of course, the news story broke. Oh, no, they took him to an aircraft carrier and they chucked him in the sea. Right, so that's the end of it. So, and that man from the embassy has not been back on the TV since. I've not seen him back. There's no recording of this interview that I can find, of this interview in the, but it was definitely on. I remember seeing it. It was like about 6:30 in the morning, and I was sitting there watching it. So it was definitely there. So,
and by the time the news replayed, because over here it's like a cycle, isn't it? It's like every hour and a half. Yeah, somebody had noticed, somebody had spoke out of turn. Pull that. Get his security clearance. You're going to a job in the private sector, dude. And people like Ben, just tell them it never happened.
Yeah, and you know, it's what's awful is that if that had happened, if it would have made it vaguely credible if they had, but of course they didn't want to. So what they put out the news story: bin Laden's been killed, and people. I mean, it was late at night in the United States. It was really sad because people, understandably, from their point of view, because what happened on 9/11, they were cheering in the streets. There were street parties and things like that, and they believed it. They believed that he was dead because they had saw it on the news. And I remember I was thinking of Bill Hicks, you know, his famous line, you know, we're the puppet people, put it on the TV and it's true. And I thought, I was very frustrated by that. I really was. Because it should be obvious that they should question this. But there's no independent confirmation of this death. And what's more, the SEAL Team 6, now this is interesting. The soldiers, the Special Forces unit that carried out this killing of bin Laden, where are they? Well, most of them are dead, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
Let me repeat that. The Special Forces unit that carried out the death of the attack on bin Laden, which killed him, nearly all of them are dead. Now, most of them were killed in one incident. You know, they were in a helicopter that was shot down. But a lot of others have died independently. For example, one guy is into parachuting, and he was off duty in his own time, and he was in a parachute jump, and he jumped out of the plane, and guess what? The parachute wouldn't open. And neither would the reserve chute. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about as our day.
Nothing to worry about, Ben. That's why, God forbid anything happens to the men and women that might have been a part of whatever's just gone down in the part of Syria where Baghdadi was. But have we got a new contender yet?
No, well, I don't know. Actually, yes, I must reiterate that those guys who were involved in that raid, I mean, if any of them are listening, for God's sake, be careful. Watch your backs.
And I bet you they know that better than anyone.
Yeah. But as for a new evil Al Turban type Emmanuel Goldstein Snowball character, I haven't seen one announced yet, but it's bound to turn up.
Oh, can we have like a reality TV show where we can vote one off every week and just get left with like a terrorist leader? That's about the only thing they haven't done on reality TV yet.
Bring Simon Cowell, he'll go,
exactly. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Honestly, dude. Why not? We could have Dancing with the Terrorists. We could like vote one off every week. Terrorists on ice.
That'll be fantastic.
ISIS in the jungle. I don't know.
That's a great idea for a comedy sketch, man. It really is. That's a brilliant idea for a comedy sketch. Because there's going to be another one sooner or later. I mean, it's like Doctor Who. You know, they have a different look, they have a different appearance, they even have a different sex, but it's the same character that comes up again and again with a different name, different face, different voice.
And we're at a stage now, Ben, with technology and the ability of AI to create faces that are indistinguishable from an actual human. If we didn't know them, you'd look at the face, yeah, that's somebody. They have the potential, let me say. I don't think they would go there yet, but they've got the potential to create an entirely fictitious character to give these people that are in that very, very small minority that use Islam as a vehicle for their hate, give them somebody to idolize and look up to and do their thing for. You know, they could do it if they wanted, but again, I wouldn't say that's a reality. But I would imagine over the next coming weeks, we'll probably hear some name emerging. You know, you got to be able to justify all the arms sales and everything else that comes on the back of the war on terror or bad guys out there. If there's no bad guys to fight, it's a bad day for the military-industrial complex, you know?
Well, it has to, exactly, Kev. I mean, they literally have to find somebody. I mean, it's rather like that film, Wag the Dog. They'll come up with some boogeyman, and especially now Turkey has invaded Syria, so Turkey is now involved. It seems to be escalating. There's been a big American redeployment. I mean, Trump is often saying he plans to end this, and he hasn't been able to, or he hasn't, for whatever reason, he hasn't been able to. And in order to keep this going, the first casualty of war has to be truth, which means we need to get public attention focused on it again. And there is going to be some kind of figurehead, some kind of cipher, and it'll be a guy with a beard, probably with 6 wives. Probably he'll be blamed for what's her name, Kayla Mackenzie, or whatever her name is. Kayla Muller, you know, the aid worker who disappeared.
Yeah.
Because the story was that Kayla Muller was actually married to Baghdadi, Al-Baghdadi, although I don't think she actually said yes at the altar. I think she was told she was going to be married to him. But it could be that she'll turn up again, but she'll be married to this new boogeyman.
Ah, yes. There's always a boogeyman. Unless they switch it and go hardcore on the Russian thing. But I don't see it. I'm looking for the new name coming out of the Middle East. They'll probably have a new name for the group as well. They'll have a rebranding. You know, they'll have a whole new set of uniforms. They'll get the Spielberg type production of them driving to a new bit of the desert with brand new Humvees and just the way that they rolled out the last time, eh?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fiefdom that already has 4 separate names: ISIS, ISIL, IS, Daesh. I mean, it'll probably, because it's on its last legs now.
Yeah,
apparently, it's going to be defeated, but something will arise from the ashes, and it'll be exactly the same pattern all over again. Again, Al Qaeda rebranded. The war is not meant to be won or lost. It's meant to be continuous, as George Orwell said, and they're going to do what they can to keep it going in another form if this one doesn't work, when this one's run out.
Absolutely, and folks, just because a lot of the stories that we hear, a lot of the threats, a lot of the hype might be exaggerated and faked, it doesn't mean that terrorism is fake. And these people living out there in Syria and all these other countries that have been affected all across Europe, here in the UK as well, these are real things happening. And not to be mistaken as being just a fake part of this whole psyop going on. And when it comes to some of these events, we know we have to take them case by case, but unfortunately, I would love to tell you that everyone goes home after these things happen and it's all fake and it's all CGI. But the harsh reality is that it's very, very real. So as much as we laugh and we joke about the characters that come and go and come back again and go again, we know it's very serious matter indeed. And again, like Ben said, this is business for the military-industrial complex. And I hope to goodness that all of that in the Middle East disappears sometime soon and there's no terror threat. But then where does that leave the governments that have used this as a vehicle to push through so much of the world that we live in now, from the TSA to all the surveillance and everything else, Ben?
It cannot come to an end unless it's a part of a larger, greater apocalypse, as you said. And the correct definition, as you said, is revelation. It's unveiling. It's not a doom. Apocalypse is what we associate with the end of the world. It's not. It's about unveiling. But in a sense, it will be the end of a world. It will be the end of an old world. But it has to end, Kev, because it's a world of lies. It's a world of deceit, a world of destruction and suffering. And yeah, I mean, I hope it all comes out. It cannot come out on its own. It can only come out as a pillar of another, along with other pillars within the edifice.
Let me put this to you because I put it to Joe recently, and this is a bit more optimistic, actually, Ben. Go figure. But remember Carol Rosen, and I'm not saying that the stages and everything are absolutely set in stone, but let's look at what she gave us from Werner von Braun, the head of NASA, transferred over to NASA or the America from Project Paperclip, the guy that was building the rockets that were aimed all across Europe. So he said to her that, you know, first there would be the Russians, the Cold War. We would have that. Next, there would be the rogue nations and this terrorist threat that we've got. And then after that, we would see the asteroids. And after that, we would see the alien threat, okay? Now, we've seen Donald Trump announcing Space Force. We've seen a heck of a lot happening when it comes to asteroids flying by, near misses, sky lighting up at night, etc., etc. And Ben, if they are ready, like we say, this revealing, this new age, they're ready to go for it into the next stage of the plan. At some point under a global government, they're going to have to pull us all together somehow, you know, for us to really go for that. And that outside threat, not the pajama clan in the Middle East or some superpower or something else. It's got to be something we can all kind of unite over and give the military-industrial complex cover to keep on getting lots of money funneled from the government, i.e. space. Let's weaponize that. And I hope that might be where we're going to, because, again, we're still in the agenda, but at least we're not, like, killing each other down here on the planet.
Well, it's certainly, I mean, what Carol Rosen said is absolutely fascinating, especially regarding what's actually happened in the world since she spoke to, Werner von Braun. This was in the mid-70s. She had this discussion with him. It is truly an amazing prophecy. But the idea of the fake alien invasion, and as you know, Ronald Reagan said, I think about how quickly our worldly differences would disappear if we were faced with a threat from beyond this Earth. And indeed, what other threat could there be? I mean, space is a dangerous place. And you mentioned asteroids, and funnily enough, this is one of the reasons I do a space weather report every week on her Panmo radio, is because to keep a track on these sorts of things. There's been several headlines about Apophis, this asteroid, and that it might hit the Earth. Well, it might. There's a 1 in 45,000 chance it might hit the Earth in the year 2036, but it's been talked about that it might. There's a headline that it might come. It'll come dangerously close to the Earth before Christmas. Well, it will come quite close, but then of course, at the same time you have movies like Independence Day, and several others. There's the Alien Invasion film, and of course, going back to War of the Worlds. I mean, War of the Worlds was the original, written by the novel by H.G. Wells. It's been adapted into several films, and there's a new series being screened by the BBC, actually. It's a correct period one, incidentally, which is the first time. But this idea that there's evil aliens coming down, and of course, we have to unite behind a common enemy to defeat them. And also, coincidentally, it's quite convenient because we have to forgive the government for lying to us for 75 years as well, for keeping it from us. They were just doing it for our safety because the aliens are big baggy evil oinks with tentacles coming out their heads.
It's because they love us, Ben.
Yeah, they had our best interests at heart, Kev. That's the thing. They had our best interests at heart. Now, that is something we are going to have to be on our guard against. We really are. And if this eventuality occurs, as Ian R. Crane talked about regarding the 2012 Olympics, if this did happen, if, for example, there was a fake alien invasion at the 2012 Olympics, which didn't happen, of course, if it had happened, it's absolutely vital that people like us try to maintain an atmosphere of calm debate by making as many people as possible take a step back, looking at it again, and thinking, is this what it appears to be? I mean, whether they're real or, it will be fake and not real extraterrestrials, but the technology exists, I believe, to simulate a lot of the effects of an alien invasion that would happen. For example, craft powered by anti-gravity, directed energy weapons, things like that. You actually see these in War of the Worlds. You see these machines which are like three-legged lander transports, that like walk with 3 legs, and they shoot beams of light which look like lasers, but they're like beams of fire. It's like a directed energy weapon. And if that happens, we've got to wonder. I mean, where's this coming from? And no doubt some planet not in the solar system, probably beyond the solar system. It's Mars in War of the Worlds, but beyond the solar system will be blamed. But is it really? Especially because the message will be unite and fight. We have to become one world under a global state of emergency, or we're all going to end up as alien beefsteak. You see what I mean? That's the risk. We give away our freedom so that the government will protect us. And of course,
exactly the same as we've been doing the past 18 years, ladies and gentlemen. Feeling safer. But yeah, this is the Prince, the Patsy, and the Paranormal. When we come back after the break, we'll be getting into some other stories as well. I believe, Ben, you've got a political candidate that's in our ranks, right?
Well, this is really odd. Yes, I mean,
this is cool.
I'm really delighted.
This doesn't trigger me. We're okay, folks. Kev untriggered.
Yeah, Jill Hughes. Unbelievably, this is like she used to be a prospective parliamentary candidate for Batley and Spen, which may ring a bell. It's where Joe Cox was the MP before she sort of went away in some way or another, dead or otherwise departed. And she is standing for she was standing for the Brexit Party in that particular constituency, and she is a believer, as the skeptics say, in all kinds of strange things. Aliens, yeah, this is it. She believes she herself has connections to aliens. The Syrians, you may have heard some aliens called the Syrians. She believes she is descended from the Syrians. She believes that certain governments are collaborating with extraterrestrial forces, which is again something I take seriously. And she's written a book called Spirit of Prophecy, which is paranormal crime fiction. Sounds just up my street.
I like that genre.
Yeah, so it's a shame she's not actually standing. I mean, she's standing for election now, because it would be really great to have someone on our sort of wavelength in that position. I mean, I'm sure I'm not saying she's ever going to be Prime Minister. That's unlikely. But it'd be great to have her in Parliament. It really, really would.
Well, it definitely would. Be kind of refreshing. Although I must admit, I'm enjoying the comedy show that is Boris Johnson. We'll be back after the break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We've only got one segment to go with Ben. Let's make the most of it right here on TFRlive.com. Oh, yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. Yeah, I quite like that idea, actually, having the reality TV show. I think that could be an idea for a little funny video. Probably enough to get you deplatformed right enough, but yeah, I'll probably just keep that for the other dimension, where we can say what we like.
Almost anything can get you deplatformed nowadays, definitely, yeah. But that's a great idea. I'm sure. I mean, I don't think I could put together a
No, I'm not funny enough either. I wish I did have like that comedy bone in me, but I mean, I like to try and make a joke, but I know my jokes are crap, Ben. I know that. People, you've either got it or you don't. And I think, if we could give that to somebody that is into comedy, I think they could have that's almost Monty Python-esque.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah, just the group of guys with the beards. I mean, maybe the fish-hatted Pope could do like a musical version of it. I don't if he's watching.
Oh, dearie.
Oh, my nose is.
So where do you want to go when we get back, Ben? Let's give these great people some of what they love, some of the woo.
The woo. Oh,
well, hang on your website before we go back anywhere. We'll just get a quick word with you about this. I noticed this earlier on. Hang on now. The Shell Tribunal update. Yes. What's going on, man?
Well, I don't know if I talked about my idea. We've been talking about the trolling and things like that.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Do you want to address it on air?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll do it when we come back, okay? We'll do it when we come back, because I was having a quick read of it today. And I'll tell you what, we need some kind of tribunal for this kind of stuff. Well,
it was getting ridiculous, wasn't it? I mean, it was... So I'll say it when we're on TFR, but I've talked about this before, about that, what's happening with Larry Warren. And it's, I'm often the target of this. Other people, Miles Johnston, Simon Parks, I mean, it seems to be continuous.
They try and drag me in every time I have Gary on, but because I don't bite, they go away after a week or so. Of course, all of their nasty names and accusations remain on Facebook, you know, but hey, that is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I blocked them all, luckily. Occasionally people said, hey, oh, do you know what this person's saying about you? Do you know what they're saying about you here? And that's always the usual sort of thing. There's been nothing original, actually, they've said for ages, but they keep coming back to it. And this kind of obsessive need to generate drama led to this idea that I've had about having the Shield Tribunal. It's not just for Shields, it's for everything. But I'll talk about it on TFR because I'm sure they'd like to hear about it.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely. I say, it was in my mind after seeing it earlier anyway. And yeah, definitely. But I've enjoyed tonight so far. I hope everyone out there's enjoyed themselves. Remember, we only need 4 more members, folks, and we get the Moth Ma'am emoji. So yes, hopefully by the weekend we'll have 4 new members. Various ways to support the stream. Check the links in the description. And of course, totally free to watch as well. We're just glad to have you all here. And Ben, I'll get you to give your websites out again one more time. We're going to go back to the network in just a moment. I'll let you do it then. And then, we'll take a look at the Shield Tribunal update. Yes, indeed. This is going fast, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame to go back down to earth in this way, but I mean, it's the drama, the bloody drama that keeps getting generated. It's
right.
People have nothing better to do than generate drama.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's one of the things I love about the chat here. It's one of the kind of drama-free zones. From time to time, it'll break out a little bit, but not much at all. Here we go.
It's worse than the people who, like you say, watch TV.
Here we go. Final segment on the Kev Baker Show today with Ben Emlyn-Jones. We've covered a whole heap of topics here. The Prince, the Patsy, another Patsy, and now we're going to get into paranormal stuff and more of the kind of stuff myself and Ben get into. But before we get there, Ben's working on an idea that has been formulating in his mind because of all of the kind of stuff that, unfortunately, people like myself and Ben will commonly have to put up with. Now, because we're, I hate to say figures, but we have a show. I've got a show here. Ben's got his show. We're kind of known in these circles by all of you, by other people out there. It attracts trolling from time to time. It's inevitable. And Ben has certainly been the target of that, as have many others, myself included. And Ben's had an idea. We're going to get into that in just a minute, because I'm looking forward to hearing this. But before we get there, Ben, why don't you give all the trolls and shells out there a way to contact you on social media?
Yeah, I think some of them don't really need any help.
No, exactly.
They track me down. They follow me around in some cases. But I'm on social media, Facebook and Twitter. So by all means, come and follow me. I'm friendly on Facebook. If I've got a certain number of mutuals, then I always accept. If it's more than about 20 mutuals, that's absolutely fine. And if you have the same interests as me, again, it's really, really great. But yeah, and on my website is Hapanmo, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And you can just see a little screenshot there of Hapanmo Voice, which is my news site, hapanmo-voice.blogspot.com, which is probably the best way of getting hold of me because all my latest updates are posted there. I haven't done any the last couple of days. I haven't had time. But I did do one on Sunday, as you can see there. And I update that as often as I can. Usually, I try to do it every day if possible. And of course, the other things attached to that, the radio show, YouTube, and things like that, I do those too. So check me out there.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at your website here, and this is what we're going to talk about. The Shield Tribunal update. What's going on, man?
Right. Yeah, this is something I think I've not gone into in details before.
Absolutely not.
We have talked about, as you said, the troll crisis several times. And this is something that is now seems to be getting worse. And there are a certain number of people, unfortunately, who are using the internet and using their place within the UFO, paranormal, conspiracy, woo community for the sole purposes of generating drama. which is very sad, and it's contemptible and it's pathetic. And we don't need to go into details about this because, of course, we've talked before about the various things that have happened. I mean, just for a single example, for people who've not heard of this, I've been accused of all kinds of things, including abusing disabled people. I've been accused of abusing disabled people. That's just one example of what I'm talking about here. And so I thought to myself, when I was looking through the drama that is generated, it seems to be rather medieval, Kev. It seems to be a bit of a case of ordeal by hashtag.
Yes, I like it.
What happens is you get like if someone doesn't like you, they'll just say it's you boil kittens for breakfast and things like that, and they'll post it on their social media page, and other people will post underneath, oh my god, I had no idea, and some people just believe it. They will simply believe it. So then sometimes somebody tries to defend me, and then they get attacked. Before you know it, it's like a barroom brawl. And what I found is people very often they'll unfriend me and they'll turn their back on me because it's just too much trouble or because they're not sure. And so I thought to myself, let's not have this medieval justice. All right, let's bring it up to date by having some kind of due process. Now this is not unusual, this kind of thing, because believe it or not, there are many independent legal systems in the world, ones which are not associated with any state actor and have no legislative power at all, yet they operate and they function pretty well because they're respected by the people who use them within their community. And these often center around religious communities, such as the Beth Din, which are Jewish courts. In Jewish communities all over the world, Jews will resolve internal disputes within their community through these courts, which are based on the law of Moses. And also the Muslims have something simple called the Qadi, which is the councils of the Sharia, which operate in the same way. Now, I thought, well, why don't we have a woo version of that?
Me like it, man.
So I decided to design one. And I've come up with what I think is a basic design, which is actually quite a simple, basic court system. You have like a judge.
Oh, dude, this is awesome. There's going to be shapes in here that trigger people that see symbols everywhere. It's going to be awesome, man.
I'm sure people say I'm a member of the Illuminati because of one or the other of these symbols. I'm no doubt about it.
You're definitely into the woo. You've got a W in a circle. That means you're confirmed woo. Yeah. You're Womanati.
It's like these symbols represent the basic, what could be a structure of one of these courts. And there's a judge it's not like a judge in a normal court because there'd be no sentence, obviously, because as I said, this is not something, there's nothing can be enforced from this court.
Oh, I was hoping we could like tar and feather them or something, man. Can we not have a wizard that sits around a round table or something? Come on.
Unfortunately, you're not going to see trolls in pillories at street corners.
Dang. Dang.
But you might see what you might see. If enough people get on board with this idea and they respect this more civilized and organized way of resolving disputes than what we have now. If we have this more civilized way, then it could hopefully have some kind of impact and a way of bringing a little bit of calm discourse into these issues, these personal disputes than what we have now. The judge, for example, would organize everything and would make sure order was maintained. And these things would all be recorded. We'd probably have some kind of, hangout session like on Skype or something like that, which would be very, very similar to what we're doing now, really. There'd be, basically, the accuser would be able to present their case in a legal way and in a properly lawful manner. And they could have an advocate if they wanted. There could be two people, the accuser and their advocate. And the person accused, the defendant, would be in the same position. They could present their case across. And what's more, the advocates could then cross-examine all the people involved. And it wouldn't be what you have now, which is, oh my God, Emlyn-Jones did this, that, and the other. Just have nothing more to do with him. It will be, they'd have to present something factual. It would have to be factual. They have to be factual. They have to be open to dispute and discussion. And the same would go for any witnesses, because as in a court, you could call witnesses that might help you. And in the end, a decision would be made. But a decision would be made by a jury. there'd be a group of people who were not personally connected in any way with the defendant or the accuser. They wouldn't be on their friends list. They wouldn't be relatives, and they would be summoned to give the decision. And then the court, the most we could do in terms of enforcement would simply be to go on to social media and make the people aware of the ruling of this court. And now, I know it's a thought experiment, Kev. I know it's unlikely that enough people would be involved, but I thought it's a necessary thought experiment, because I think the principle of it is very progressive. I think the principle of it allows us to enter a situation where we could possibly, even if only theoretically, have some kind of order here, some kind of civility in what is essentially just turning into barbarism. Because we've seen how awful this gets, don't we? You and I have both seen it. Have you had things that I do? I get contacted by people who are just hurling abuse at me, and they're repeating accusations made about me by people who don't like me. And they are not even asking to hear what I have to say. They are condemning me. They are judging and condemning me on the word of another. And it's not acceptable, Kev. I mean, it really is not. It's so unfair.
I was lying in hospital after a double heart attack with a live stream happening with a bunch of trolls, mostly from Glasgow, talking about how I was committing crimes on a par, maybe worse than what was proven against Jeffrey Epstein in his first case. And I've got no way of stopping that from happening. Yeah, I appealed to YouTube. Yeah, I told them, look, how's this not hate speech? That video's still up there. These things are still out there. My son, when he was younger, he had to come across things like that. These people saying these things with absolutely nothing to back it up. And there's no recourse. They can just get away with it. And how many people do read these things and actually do believe it? Because it's online, well, it must be true. You know, I know we don't think like that, but a lot of people do. And mud sticks. And why should me and Ben have to defend ourselves against accusations being made by people who have got nothing to back those accusations up in the first place? And this is why I kind of really despise all of the kind of name calling of Hollywood people as well. And I really do wish the Hollywood people would grow a backbone, use some of their money, and take some of these clowns to court. Because that's the only way that trolls are really going to learn in the end of the day, if there's something done against them. And at what point does things being said against me and Ben become an actual legal matter? And I'm not just talking about me and Ben. We're here about anyone out there that's faced this. At what point are they crossing the line of defamation?
I've been consulting with several other people who've been on the receiving end of this kind of abuse, and it does, as you said, it involves accusations that are so terrible. They're some of the most terrible accusations you can even think of, and they've been fabricated and they've been hurled in our direction. I've been consulting with this. We're looking into taking legal action of various kinds, but it's extremely difficult, and I feel utter contempt, not just for the people making the accusations. Of course, I feel intense hatred for them, but for those who just believe it. These are people who don't have the same excuses that the normal, the normies have. The people who just watch TV, as you were saying, and watch reality TV, because they've been educated, Kev. They are part of our community, and they have been educated into alternative ideas. These are people who should be more open and less gullible. Yet they're not. They believe some of the accusations are very, very extremely defamatory, as you said, but they're also nonsensical. I mean, for example, the trolls will say something like, they'll accuse you of some of the most horrific things you can possibly think of, and then they'll say, yes, but I'm not going to call the police yet. I'm going to make a lot of videos about it first, hurling abuse at them, and then maybe next week I'll call the police. Well, the thing is, if one word of what they were saying were true, if one word of it were true, myself, Miles, Simon Parks, all these other people, we'd be in jail. There's no doubt about it. Larry Warren would be in jail.
And rightly. in
Yeah,
jail.
exactly. If it was true, that's where we'd be. And why are we not, Kev? Why are we not? Why are we still walking the streets? The reason why we're still walking the streets is because these people have not made complaints to the police, because they know as well as we do that what they're saying is a load of male cow excrement. And that's how I put it politely on the air.
Well, I know my major troll out there, he literally can't go to the police because of warrants out and the fact that he's been found guilty of some of the things that I've been accused of myself in the past. But I don't tend to talk about that. You see, I could sit and I could make videos about that all day long with evidence to back it up. There's no point. I'm here for the info. I'm not here for drama. That's why, in the end of the day, these people now, it used to hurt me, but I honestly could not give two brown, steaming turds what these people think of me, because you know what it says? It says a whole lot more about them than it does about me, Ben, or anyone else that they're targeting. And I know that out of the core audience of this show, the core audience that Ben has, the core audience that anyone that's getting trolling has, I know that yous don't believe it either. And if yous don't believe it, me happy, no wasty time, get them to the tribunal, tarred and feathered, named and shamed, out of there. That's it,
Well,
Ben.
that's why I do it, Kev. The idea of the tribunal is a way of saying, look, put up or shut up. This is a way we can get together, we can sort it out. Of course, they won't. The reason they won't do it, of course, because they know they can't. What they want to do is, as you said, smear with lies and hope those lies stick. And it's not going to work. I like yourself, Kev. I focus on the good people, the people who respect me and you, the people who are about information, who want to save the world, because that's what we've got to do. We've got to save the world. Can't we put petty personal squabbles on the back burner for now, especially those involving such horrific lies and such hatred? It's just really sad that people are abdicating from this, and they're basically stepping away from this vital struggle to do what I would consider childish for a 3-year-old to do.
Do you not think that the internet is really giving these people a platform? I need to word this correctly. We all know in the real world, before the internet, people we know around us, we went to school with, we worked with, there are bad people out there. There are people that we don't get on with. They're kind of nasty. They're never really anything optimistic to say. Selfish, all about themselves. We know these people exist. Is it that the internet then magnifies that, do you think, Ben? Because a lot of the time, I don't think these people would act the same way in public. I don't think they would say exactly the same things that they write in comments to our face. Now, is that because they're thinking it, but they just stop themselves because whatever reason they're a bit scared? It's not the kind of thing you do in public, calling somebody out, and yet now they have the perfect forum where they can show their nastiness, their hatred. Some people, unfortunately, are just like that for whatever reason.
The internet doesn't only magnify it, it essentially creates it. And before the internet, I mean, the nearest you would get to this sort of thing would be like the obscene phone caller, the guy, the anonymous phone call, which is either as sexually obscene or threatening. Now you have a platform which is the internet's a double-edged sword, because it's a paradise of free speech for people like us who want to use it positively, this wonderful gift positively, but also for those who wish to do something very negative with it. It's a paradise for them too, because it means they can attack people with impunity. I mean, we've talked about the droid trolls before. These people have been after me for 5 years. They are people who who didn't like me, and they now have the opportunity to, from the complete comfort and safety of their home, from behind a keyboard and monitor, they can say anything they want to me, the most hurtful and the most cruel things imaginable, and there's nothing I can do with that because I don't know who they are. And I decided to put this to the test, what you were just saying once. I challenged them to a real life meeting. And I've got to be careful what I say here for legal reasons, but I was suggesting that, look, I've had enough of being abused online. If you want to abuse me, do it to my face. Let's meet up and have a little man-to-man discussion about our differences. And you know what? They never showed up. They
Yeah.
never showed up.
Yeah, I tend to imagine a lot of these people, their bark is far more vicious than any bite that they don't possess. Absolutely. Keyboard
And also
warriors.
it gives
But,
them a huge bark. It gives them a huge and very, very poisonous bark. That's the thing. But
and well, you know what?
they have
We've
that.
wasted enough time on them. Have we got any woo, Ben? You've been at conferences lately? Any good topics? Any good speakers you've heard? Anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. It's great to end the show on a high note.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, I've had a wonderful time actually. Last weekend I went to not last weekend, the weekend before. I went to the LAPIS conference. This is the Lancashire Anomalous Phenomena Investigation Society. They hold an annual conference in Lytham St Anne's, Lancashire, the same place as Probe. And indeed, it's a very like Probe. A lot of the same people are involved. A lot of the same people go along. And I spent a weekend there. I had my bookstall. I sold a few books. And I listened to some very interesting speakers, including a guy called Rob Gandy, who I think you'd have been most interested in, because he was talking about the Mandela effect. Now, it was interesting to listen to him, even though I disagreed with what he said, because his explanation for the Mandela effect was simply that it was people conflating. They're just remembering things wrongly. And you and I have talked about this, and we've talked before about how, yes, people get things wrong. Your memory is not accurate. If you watch a film you've not seen for 25 years, it won't be exactly as you remember it. It'll be different. But with the Mandela effect, you're having lots of different people conflating the same thing. You essentially have this convergence of bad memory onto a single alternative. Now, according to Rob Gandy in his thesis on the Mandela effect, indeed, this is what skeptics say across the board, that shouldn't be possible. So that was interesting. And there's a guy called Jason Gleaves as well. He was interesting because he's into UFOs. He's been a witness of many UFO events, and he analyzes UFO photographs, and he's come up with some amazing new information about some very strange cases. For example, the Los Angeles invasion, which has always been, people often wonder what it's all about, and he's analyzed the photograph of this strange object that appeared above the city of Los Angeles, USA, in January of 1942. And there's a famous news photograph of it where you can see basically beams of searchlights are on it, and you can quite see there's a solid object that looks cigar-shaped or egg-shaped or disc-shaped. It's not an aircraft. It's not a conventional aircraft. No way. And the forces there, they opened fire on this object. They shot at it with anti-aircraft weaponry, which is understandable. This was only a couple of weeks after Pearl Harbor, and everyone was a bit tense.
And but remember, Ben, remember Pearl Harbor wasn't the first attack on American soil.
Oh no, that's an interesting Mandela effect you just brought up. Yes, what's it called? This
Black Tom Island incident.
I've never heard of this.
Well, I showed you it before, and you went and Googled it. I'm like you, Ben. I had exactly the same face on when I was introduced to this, and funnily, it was Bill Bean that showed me it first. And talking Mandela effects, he's actually just taken part in a Mandela effect seminar or webinar. So he's going to be back on soon to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the movies and things like that, sure, I'm with you. Sometimes we misremember things, but then there's some Mandela effects that, I'm sorry, for me personally, and I'm not telling anyone their world's changed, I'm not telling anyone their timeline's changed, but something for me has changed. And this Black Tom Island is one of the most profound ones that I've come across, because it was always the Lusitania that was the impetus, the kind of kickstart for America to enter World War One, the sinking of that ship. But in this new version of events, there's this explosion that takes place, and it's so big that it causes a 5 on the Richter scale, and there's still damage to the Statue of Liberty to this day. And I'm sorry, folks, I was always taught, and I get the education system's broken, but I think we can all remember being told that the first attack on American soil was Pearl Harbor. And then you could go to that day in September 2001 for a proper terror attack. But this year, 2 German spies blowing up a munition factory that was felt halfway across the country. I don't remember that.
I don't even. I'm really surprised. Indeed, I know people from New York City, and I'm surprised. I mean, I've never heard any of them talk about this, but it should have gone down as one of the most incredible incidents in the history of the of the city. And I mean, luckily, I mean, the casualties were low. I mean, hundreds of people were injured, but only 5 were killed. Yet this is one of the largest non-nuclear artificial explosions ever in history. I mean, if you could see, there's a photograph of where it happened, and you can see the Statue of Liberty, and it's several miles away, and it was badly damaged, which means that it's an enormous explosion of this huge munition dump. And of course, it was supposedly blamed on German spies, which is ironic. I wonder if that's true. I got a feeling this might have been an early 9/11, another example of a 9/11 to justify.
Here we go. The Black Tom explosion was an act of sabotage by German agents to destroy US-made munitions that were to be supplied to the Allies in World War I. The explosion occurred on July 30th, 1916 in New York Harbor, destroyed some $20 million worth of military goods. And the incident, which happened prior to the US entry into World War I, also famously damaged the Statue of Liberty. And as Ben said, largest artificial non-nuclear explosion to have ever occurred.
Why have I not heard of this before?
That's the way I see it. The pictures are there.
It caused such a huge explosion. You could see absolute devastation over its entire facility. And there's the memorial, and you can see the plaque.
Yeah.
And you can see how far away. You can see how far away there the Statue of Liberty actually is, which shows how huge this explosion was. And so there's the possibilities. It simply escaped my attention, which is certainly a possibility.
And if people, I mean, I get Wiki sometimes called into question, but we've got the archive here to the actual records, so.
Well, that's the thing about the Mandela effect. It doesn't just the thing about the Mandela effect. It's not just like a new story that emerges.
No, I know, Ben. No, I know. It's just in case people out there might think, Kev's going to Wiki. You can put anything on Wiki, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is definitely happened, quote unquote. In the timeline, timeline. Currently on.
At least the convenient thing is, Ben, it never gets to our show date. And you message me to say, right, Kev, I'm coming on tomorrow. Here's the list of things. And I turn around to you and say, what are you talking about, Ben? I don't even have a show. I'm a carpenter, dude.
I don't get that extreme. Hope it doesn't.
Dude, I tell you, some of the things I've heard people saying, and again, I can't prove it, but these Mandelas, they're starting to become a little more weird, a lot more personal as well. You know, things moving in the house. I heard one story one day of somebody's wallpaper changing. Now, I don't know if that's a thing or not. I don't know. But imagine it does get that bizarre.
Yeah.
Dang, we'll be looking for that asteroid then, Ben. We're out of time, folks. Don't go anywhere because it always continues right here on tfrlive.com. And me and the big man will be back. Same time, same place, sometime next month. So until tomorrow, wherever you are, make it TFR and Denny touch that dial. Yes.
That was good.
Yes.
That was interesting. I mean, like, I was just going to think, I mean, is it becoming more common, these Mandela effects?
Well, somebody in the chat room,
more and more.
Good friend Jason, and somebody that you should check out as well, Ben, he's got a channel called First World Problems. And I'll get you a link to his channel in a minute. He's a ghost hunter. He's just started paranormal investigations, dude. He caught one of the best kind of orbs I've seen ever. It's a bright red orb. It's so weird, Ben. And also another bit of the film, he turns around and he wasn't aware of it at the time. Never seen it at the time, but it's almost like a smoke, a mist, like ectoplasmy right in front of the camera. And this was at Bodmin Goal.
Oh, that's, I mean, like orbs, of course, are contentious, and I know some of them are indeed just artifacts, but not all of them, Kev. Not all.
No, exactly. And this one was one like I've never seen before. It was a red thing, but yeah, he was saying he studied like history, that period in school, a good kind of level. Never heard of Black Tom Island. Mm-hmm. Never heard of it.
Oh, that is weird. I mean, that shocked me. I mean, of course. I mean, I have things that I've lost something, you know, like put down something. I think, I'm sure I put that in that drawer. Why is it not there? And sometimes I find it later on, and of course I realise I must have moved it and forgotten about it. Is that sort of thing happening more? Yeah,
that's some of the things I'm hearing happening more. And again, you can only really it's anecdotal evidence. But it's like everything with Mandela's. It's like I've said before. You know, I don't laugh at people when they say they've got deja vu. In fact, I don't even question it. They've just got deja vu. They're telling me. And if somebody's having something that they don't remember, then, to be honest with you, hey, look, whether it's mismemory, whether it's Mandela, these people are experiencing something. I experience some things. I definitely don't think we're the same. Now, at the same time, myself and my mum were playing Scrabble one night recently, and I asked her about the spelling of a name. I think it was besotted, that kind of thing, Ben. Yeah. And I always thought it had an E at the end of it. And I think my mum was I think she thought I meant, oh, this is a pesky Mandela. But no, it was genuinely, I didn't know how the word was spelt. So I get it. There's genuine ones out there, you know. But at the same time, I don't know, dude. I don't know. And it makes your head explode because what does it mean?
Oh, it bloody does, doesn't it? Anyway, mate, I've got to go to bed.
Yes, indeed.
It's been a good show. It's been another great show, mate. When are we on next?
Well, what we'll do is we'll play 30 seconds of music to say goodbye to these great people on YouTube. And then I will arrange our next show with you and let you get to bed. I'll be back tomorrow, folks. Hope you enjoyed. I hope none of the Randy Andy, the pervy Prince stuff triggered anyone out there. I hope nobody got as angry as I wanted to get. You know, I love the Royals. I did swear an oath to her after all. I wonder if that's still binding. So until next time, remember, keep looking for the woo. Keep the mind open, but don't let your brain turn to black goo. Until next time, we are out of here.